Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 152, Running from Feeling, How Staying Crazy Busy Keeps Us from Facing It. Welcome back to this month, which, if you've been listening, you know it's been all about how to figure out what's going crazy in your life right now, what are some of the typical causes, and how to get grounded and create some balance, okay? To just stop and figure out what's going on and what can we do to rectify it. Last week, I heard from a lot of you that you really enjoyed the episode on people-pleasing, because people-pleasing creates a bit of what I call insta-chaos in our life, and I think it contributes to anxiety and depression and other struggles that we might have. Well, today I want to add on to the idea of focusing on others and how doing too much can be an easy distraction from feeling and maybe facing some things we don't want to contend with. Sometimes these are conscious things for us, but oftentimes they are feelings we're not even aware are going on. They're so buried. Okay, so don't be hard on yourself if you find that you're doing this, you're running around, you're doing too much, putting crazy in your life, but you're not sure what feelings you're avoiding. You may not know yet. So what do we mean by running? I think there are a million ways to run. I think we're running from it in some way so we don't sit in some very difficult reality, perhaps. Maybe we fear the vulnerability and we fear we aren't able, aren't ready, our psyche isn't ready or strong enough yet to face what is, like what's really going on the inside of us. And then maybe the possible fallout if we need to make some difficult decisions. We've talked about that before here on the show. It's why we try to go out there, focus outside of ourselves and control outcomes, because we want to avoid what's going on within, perhaps. Change is loss. Decisions might include loss, and we're just not ready to do that. So we do what I call fake peace that we've been trying to create for ourselves, pretend everything is fine, we like being busy, we love the energy, whatever we tell ourselves. Now, I'm not talking about having an active life and having some great things go on in your life. I'm talking about more than one person has stopped you lately and said, "Are you okay? Because you sure have a lot going on right now." It's up to you to define what's too much. It's not up to me to tell you what that is. I'm just saying if you find it getting a little crazy, you might be running. All right, so some of the most common ways that we think of running or numbing is like drinking or using something to alter our mood, focusing on something or someone to take care of, to rescue, to fix, to make better. Maybe it's even a good cause we get immersed in. Maybe someone really does need our help. But we just don't have any boundaries around how much helping we do or how long we help. I think another very common way we talked about running a few episodes ago was when we pile on so gradually that we don't even notice until things are starting to fall down on top of us. Plates are dropping. This piling on is often to keep ourselves so busy doing and thinking about all that stuff that we don't have time to sit still. All these mechanisms have their own chaos and stress attached to them too. Some are more damaging than others to our health, to our relationships, and our stress levels. It's all about balance, which is what we're focusing on this month. When it's too much, it's too much. So where do people learn to run from feeling? Well, most people learn how to numb and deny, usually early in life, but can maybe have a traumatic event later in life that can also bring this on, such as, God forbid, a sexual assault or other violent crime, maybe being in a war zone, any kind of trauma. In childhood, it can also come from emotional trauma, or just by being raised in a family that couldn't handle your emotions, or maybe you stuffed them because other people in your family, usually your caregivers, were so histrionic or easily triggered, ragers, or manipulative or passive-aggressive in other ways. It just wasn't emotionally safe to share what you felt. And they probably couldn't validate it either, even if you did. So why bother? Like we've talked about, kids learn either subconsciously or consciously to stuff what's going on if it's not going to go well. It's like they have a keen perception of what parents' capacities are. Emotional capacities, maturity capacities, boundaries, all that stuff. Kids know. Remember last week we talked all about how to survive in relationships and how we may have had to turn to avoidance. Avoidance of conflict, of rejection, or abandonment. Your needs, your feelings, and your desires weren't validated or honored, perhaps. And maybe even worse, your boundaries are violated, like we talked about last week. So to survive, you ignored the real self and you focused outside of you. So I want you to think for a moment, in your life, what did you typically do, especially when you were younger, when something happened to upset you? How did you cope? Did you run to your room and shut the door, pulling away from others to feel okay? Did you lash out or act out to let others know? Did you eventually find ways to escape via fantasy, maybe an imaginary friend or two, video games, eating carbs especially? Maybe it was books for you or lots of TV. Or did you pour your heart out to a friend or a caregiver or a big sister? If we find that a coping skill or set of skills seems to work, quote unquote, enough times, where it takes our mind off the pain, we're going to return to it in different ways and forms throughout our life, unless we take a look at it. We usually learn coping skills early in life, or we have something awful happen and we can't metabolize it, so our defenses come up and we deny or we stuff, or we're just not ready to handle it. And when you think about the awful things that happen to people, it's understandable. It can be scary to open yourself up to it, especially if you have difficulty trusting other people. Like we talked about growing up, maybe you didn't have great templates for trusting good people, trusting trustworthy people. You probably put less than fabulous people in your life after that because you went on the original template. So there's that aspect. So you've had experience after experience of people just, a little narcissistic, making it about them when you were upset, maybe ridiculing you for being upset. Maybe your words fall on the floor. So it's hard to imagine opening up and trusting. And speaking of trusting, trusting the universe to take care of you if you do. This is all about not being in control, right? This is all about being okay, letting go of control and just being. People who struggle with anxiety and struggle with control issues are going to struggle with this a lot. And it becomes so ingrained in who they are, they don't even notice it anymore. But here's the thing, it only goes so far, this coping that we do. High stress situations can wear you out, physically, emotionally, mentally. Numbing, I think, by being too busy can also bring lots of chaos. Lots of stress, perhaps irritability. I think it can wear on our ability to cope since we're not taking any time to rejuvenate, get grounded, see clearly, or simply just get some darn rest. There's little balance with other things too, like recreation, maybe creativity, or if you have piled these things on, isn't it hard to just relax and enjoy them because there's way too much? There's way too much that has to get done, right? Way too much swirling around you. There aren't boundaries. Some of the examples of creating crazy in our life to run is working is the obvious one. Working way too many hours when maybe you don't absolutely have to, perhaps. Deciding to add 2 more house projects when the big one you have going on ain't even finished yet. And you rationalize it. You're like, well, let's start this other thing now so we can get it all done. Or those products were on sale, so let's go ahead and redo the guest room. Not saying no to yourself. Another way we create chaos is, ironically, by procrastinating. Like going down rabbit holes on YouTube, buying more things as opposed to cleaning out the guest room you said you wanted to do. And then there's other people offering to help someone else with their thing, even though their thing is valuable, whatever they need, when your things are a mess and half finished or in a critical state. So the "we have no business" phrase comes to mind. Do we have any business putting that on our plate? Why? How do we justify that? If we want to put something on our plate that is really important that just came up, what needs to go? Right? So dealing in reality. It is amazing the denial and the delusion that can happen when someone is running from some big feelings. You see this a lot for people who have a big loss or a big trauma. It's too much. They just can't deal, so they dive into some crazy project, perhaps, that is all-consuming for them. So they can stay so busy and so distracted. It's really heartbreaking when you think about it. Eventually, it catches up with them. And speaking of catching up with us, when we create this crazy, we begin to resent having to do some of these things, right? But we don't even see that we're the ones who need to do something about it. We're just complaining about all the stuff, all the things that need to be done, all the people who need us. It's truly a lack of boundaries, like we've been saying. It's about not saying no to more doing and not saying no to ourselves. We just gladly keep accepting the anesthesia of just one more thing to focus on that we can fix, control, make better, make pretty, etc., etc. And we're really good at persuading other people and ourselves that this is the right time to do all this stuff. So what happens if we were to stop or even pare down enough where we have quiet time? Time alone, time to really sit and talk with others about real things that are happening. Time to face some reality maybe that we don't want to face. I see this often where someone doesn't want to face the irresponsibility of their spouse, so they focus on doing everything for the kids and a million activities, and they wear themselves out because they're avoiding the relationship with their spouse or their partner. They're avoiding the reality of what's going on. Stopping can seem terrifying to some and annoying to others and everywhere in between on that continuum. And it's okay wherever you are. But there are benefits of learning to stop and to sit in it just a little bit at a time and let yourself feel. One of the biggest benefits is that you start to feel cleansed, like no more pent-up negative energy. It takes effort to push all that down, whether we're conscious of pushing it down or not. It takes energy. You're no longer carrying the old bags around of fermenting feelings. You're emptying the bag. You're feeling the hurt, the anger, and the disappointment, the sadness and the loss. It's all about losses when it comes down to it. Loss of a relationship, maybe an opportunity, the old times that we had, the way things were, of comfort and familiarity perhaps, or maybe dreams for the future. We're grieving what was or what we wanted things to be like. So we don't want to see the contrast perhaps between what's really going on in our life, in some area of our life, whether that's our primary relationship, whether That's our job, our financial situation, whatever it may be. Maybe we don't want to face the contrast of what we thought it was going to be like and what it really is. Maybe even deeper, it is about shame. Shame is the not good enough. How are we avoiding some self-loathing around some things we've allowed in our life? Maybe even deeper, the way we've treated ourselves. So when we allow unhealthy things in our life, we're not loving ourselves, and deep down we know that. Maybe it's mixed in with some guilt, earned guilt, that, yep, we're responsible for doing something or hurting someone or hurting ourselves, not taking care of stuff. And talk about compounding. When you have so much crazy going on in your life, how are you taking care of stuff? How are you taking care of you? How are you taking care of the things that really need to be addressed? Maybe it's your health that's taken a hit from all the crazy. Then we're going to have some real guilt and shame. So as you can see, most of this is about grief, the grief we're avoiding. We don't know how, or we know how and we don't want to. Sometimes it's stuffing our anger at something because we've taught ourselves to pretend. Maybe our anxiety is acting up so doing will distract us. Sitting in it washes over us and then goes away, then comes back like a wave, and then goes away. The good thing is if we are courageous enough to stand on the beach and let the waves come, we can start to feel more authentic and actually more emotionally present all around. Not just to the pain, but to the good stuff too. Another benefit, therefore, you're so much more in touch with who you really are at the core of your truth. That means all your wisdom, all your humor, your creativity, and your problem-solving skills. More in touch with your courage to risk. It's all here. And it strengthens you against any more avoidance in the future. Not that you're not going to do it again, but it makes it less possible that you might. Because once you let yourself feel, and you're able to live to tell about it, the next time you start avoiding feeling, you're going to want to stop doing that. You're going to want to honor your feelings because you want to honor yourself, and your feelings are a part of your truth. It's going to feel more genuine and mature because it is. The other thing that people don't think about enough is empathy. You're going to be able to express empathy better to others now. We can only give them what we give ourselves first. And as we extend compassion to our own feelings, our own sadness, our disappointment, our fear, our anger, our hurt, our guilt, our shame, and we sit with it and we honor it, and we don't make it who we are. We just make it part of who we are. So then we can organically tap into what's going on for someone else because we have sat in it. It's no longer awkward when someone expresses genuine feelings because we are honoring our own. One thing, though, in order to stop and sit and be, is that we might need safe places and safe people to do this. Healthy people to support us who can handle the heavy stuff we might have to share. To let us feel without judgment, to validate our experiences and just be with us. Not the people who are going to say, I told you so, you never should have married that person or taken that job. We don't need manipulation, shaming, guilting, or other avoiders who lack empathy at the moment. So try to grab some healthier folks or a support group, a counselor, a coach, or all of the above. If you don't have that at the moment, at least try to journal. Let some tears fall in private. Now, bonding is always best. Sharing it with another human is so healing. But at the very least, you can connect with your real self because they've been waiting for you. So today we talked about how, for so many of us, piling on too much to do, keeping too many things going on at one time, not only creates chaos and stress, but also can conveniently keep us from sitting in feelings we might be avoiding. We explored where this coping skill may come from, ways to begin sitting with the truth, and the richness our life can have when we grab the courage to do so. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Heavy stuff, but necessary to talk about. May you stay grounded and find yourself in moments of sitting still. Try to be there and sit still with other people this week too. Thank you to so many of you signing up for the newsletter. That's great. If you don't have it yet, go to the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. Sign up there. It comes out every Tuesday. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.